I learned how to breathe without making a sound. Picture this. It's 3 a.m. on a Tuesday in the freezing gray expanses of rural Germany. The author of our source material is standing completely frozen just inches from her bedroom door. This house doesn't feel like a home at all. It's literally turned her very lungs into an enemy. She is terrified to make even the absolute slightest noise. This is what we call the 3 a.m. trap. She's 19 years old, and she is absolutely drowning in postpartum exhaustion. She's holding a sick 4-month-old baby with a damaged airway that whistles heartbreakingly with every single inhale. She's starving, her stomach is twisting in knots, but to get just a single glass of water or to get a piece of bread, she has to cross the hallway, and she can't. Because sitting out there in the dark kitchen, simply waiting for her to make a mistake, is her mother-in-law. So she turns back to her mattress and literally swallows her own saliva just to quiet her hunger. That is the exact moment she realizes her home is merely a manicured camouflage for an execution. So how did we get here? Let's move into Section 1, an illusion of rescue. How does a young mother end up trapped in a freezing hallway in a foreign country? Let's trace this back a bit. When she crossed the border from Poland into Germany back in May 2013, it was framed as this sacred rescue mission. Her mother-in-law whispered that a change of scenery would fix her husband, that Germany would heal him. She packed their bags looking like an absolute angel. But the reality was devastating. She wasn't an angel at all. She was simply exporting her own broken family machinery. They moved into the father-in-law's house, a place permanently smelling of stale beer and vinegar. But honestly, he was just background noise. The true terror arrived when she unlocked that front door. The true terror was the mother-in-law.
Which brings us to Section 2, the anatomy of alienation.
Now we're going to look at exactly how this psychological prison was built, day by day, hour by hour. The monsters who ruin your life, they rarely yell. They really don't have to. Instead, they use this microscopic, lethal observation. Every single morning, the mother-in-law would stand by the sink, wiping an already spotless counter with a damp rag. Squeak, squeak, squeak. She would speak with this icy, synthetic pity, telling the 19-year-old she was holding her own screaming baby wrong. If the young mother scrubbed the floor, the older woman would just point out some invisible speck of dirt with her shoe. If she cooked, the mother-in-law would grimace and quietly dump the entire dinner straight into the trash. It's a slow, daily psychological meat grinder designed to completely erase a person's confidence.
In psychology, there's actually a specific term for this dynamic, the flying monkey. It basically describes an enabler who orchestrates conflict on behalf of an abuser. And the absolute worst of this manipulation happened the exact second the husband came home from work. The mother-in-law's demeanor would instantly snap. She'd go from a cold, silent inspector into a grieving saint. She would fix him a drink, lean in, and just start the performance. "She's changing, son. She's becoming unstable." She'd whisper these words loud enough for the young wife to hear from the very next room. She'd complain that the wife barely touched the baby, that she didn't appreciate a single thing. And the wife would just have to sit there and watch the darkness wash over her husband's face, looking at her like she was some insect infecting his home. The mother-in-law would smile this tiny, almost imperceptible smile, and just step back. She never lifted a single finger to physically hit the young woman. She just handed her son the bat and told him exactly where to swing.
Section 3, locking from the inside. Now you might be wondering, why didn't she immediately see this woman as a monster? Why didn't she just run the very first time that dinner was thrown in the trash? Well, it comes down to a deeply vulnerable reality, the empathy trap. See, the young mother grew up in a massive, chaotic household with 7 siblings. She was conditioned from childhood to just endure discomfort, to put the harmony of the group far, far above her own survival. Her default setting was just to fix things, right? To take the blame, to apologize just for breathing if it kept the peace. So when the mother-in-law called her a terrible mother, her isolated, broken brain didn't recognize the malice. Her brain thought, actually, maybe she's right. Maybe if I scrub a little harder, maybe if I stay quieter, he's gonna stop screaming at me. This right here is systematic alienation. It's when the family orchestrates a domestic siege to protect their investment in their own family lie. By severing the victim from her country, her language, and her entire support system, they actually make her believe that the cruelty she's experiencing is just her own inadequacy. It's a psychological trap, and the terrifying part is it locks completely from the inside. And this is exactly where the outside world completely fails. Because to the medical system and the local community, they were just this respectable, devout, working immigrant family. The husband worked,
The mother-in-law looked perfectly pious. The system only saw an anxious, dependent, non-German-speaking young wife who just couldn't explain why her eyes were always red. When bureaucracies only look for superficial harmony, they completely miss the silent suffocations happening right behind closed doors.
But every system has a flaw. Section 4, the breaking point. The mother-in-law made one fatal, irreversible miscalculation. She thought she was breaking a young, helpless girl, but she completely forgot she was cornering a mother. It all happened on a random afternoon when the baby was having a severe coughing fit, struggling for oxygen. The door flies open. It's the mother-in-law. Her eyes are just dead. She looks directly at the crying baby and delivers the ultimate threat. If you can't make him shut up, we will find someone who can. A boy needs a real family, not an anchor like you. She literally threatened to replace her, to take her child.
In that exact moment, something profound shifted inside the young mother's chest. And it wasn't some warm, empowering spark. No, it was like a glacier freezing over. First, that sticky, paralyzing fear that had kept her trapped in that room, it simply evaporated. Next, her mind went completely quiet. And finally, she unmasked the architect of cruelty. For the very first time, she didn't look down. She looked right at her mother-in-law and just saw a pathetic coward. She realized then and there that no angel from the sky, no neighbor, no family member was ever coming to save them. She looked back at the older woman and said 4 very calm words. "I'll take care of it." The mother-in-law nodded, totally satisfied. She really thought she'd won, that she had broken her again. But those words were just a mask. The mother-in-law didn't know it, but she had just signed the death warrant for her own control. Because in that quiet moment, the young mother decided she was going to become the absolute smartest person in that house. So she waited for the house to go completely quiet. She crawled under her bed, reaching way deep into the dark. And hidden inside a rolled-up sock was a small, crumpled piece of paper she had saved weeks ago, a map. And on that map was an address to a building 40 kilometers away. A building she wasn't even entirely sure really existed, but it was their only way out. So, what will a mother do with absolutely nothing but a stroller and 40 kilometers of cold asphalt ahead of her? If you are watching this and you have ever felt like an intruder in your own life, if you've ever been made to feel crazy by the very people who are supposed to protect you, I really want you to hear this clearly. I see you. You are not alone, and the story does not end in that dark kitchen. This has been our explainer on the anatomy of domestic isolation. But the true test of survival is just beginning. What would you do to break out of the dark?